He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got everybody here in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Hi, I'm a furloughed federal employee and I'm also a veteran. And I want to share with you today my feelings. I went to the food bank by me. First time ever. It was a little difficult for me to do that. I'm thinking long term in 6 months when the shutdown is ongoing and they have not given us our back pay, and they will have no intention on giving us our back pay. So I have to make something clear. Going forward, I cannot be negative to the current administration, or I face the potential of being fired from my federal job. Right now I'm furloughed, but I can be fired. So I have to consider my kids. I have 3 kids and I have 2 pets and I have to feed the pets. You know, if I don't feed my pets, you know, that's a discussion for another day. So I have to tone down for my kids' sake and for mine, for when this whole thing is over and I still have a job. I worked very hard to get to where I am at. 2 degrees and lots of hard work. So I took down all my old videos because they were critical.
And I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included.
I just want to tell you guys that I'm scared for my parents to walk out there. To walk out their house because I might not be able to say goodbye to them if they go to work. I might not ever be able to say bye or see them again if you guys don't side with us. And I'm scared because of it, because they fought so hard to come here and choose a life for their kids. And I really hope you guys do hear what everyone in this room has been saying, and I hope...
So you hate the news, but you don't want to look like a thicky dum-dum in front of all your mates. Then I've got you covered. Here's what's been happening over the last few days. Donald Trump failed to end the war in Ukraine for the 7th time since becoming president.
I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours.
And instead rolled a literal red carpet out for murderous dictator Vladimir Putin. Gave him a clap. Called him the boss.
You're almost as famous as the boss.
And even bantered with the Russian delegation.
Especially this one right over here.
Behaviour made all the more shameful by the fact that Vladimir Putin sounds like a mole with asthma that's just developed human speech and then popped his little claw up Donald Trump's bot.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Huh?
Anyway, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting Donald Trump today after the US president said that no, Ukraine can't join NATO, and no, they won't get back the Crimea, which is the bit of land that Russia illegally annexed in 2014. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets of Israel to try and stop their Pixar villain Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from expanding the war in Gaza. But Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel needed to continue to eliminate Hamas, who, according to him, have been disguising themselves as starving children. The word Skibbidi has officially been added to the Cambridge English Dictionary, and the latest piece of evidence that we should all pack up as a race of creatures and launch ourselves into oblivion. The word apparently can mean cool, bad, be just used as a joke, or if you're Kim Kardashian, be imprinted on a sheet of gold and then attached to a diamond necklace.
Okay, and North got me this diamond necklace that says Skibbidi toilet.
And finally, Conservative MP Robert Jenrick forced the BBC to apologise to him and re-edit a Radio 4 Thought for the Day piece after it rightly called him a xenophobe.
Today is a small victory for freedom of speech, but the fight goes on.
I went to a boat company in South Carolina. The boat, I said, how is it? He said, it's a problem, sir. They want us to make all electric boats. So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question. And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Do you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are crazy. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand a young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 yards.
Everything Trump did this week. He shut down the government to avoid extending Obamacare, and then made up a bunch of lies about illegal immigrants to try and defend it. Used the government shutdown to defund a bunch of Democratic states and programs, including $18 billion in New York infrastructure funds, $8 billion in state climate projects, $2.1 billion in Chicago transit projects, and made plans to fire a ton more federal workers as well. He deployed the military to occupy Portland, Oregon, even though it has a way lower crime rate than a bunch of other red cities. He started forcing colleges to adopt certain ideologies in order to get federal funding. Among other things, he wants them to end diversity initiatives in hiring and admissions, stopped enforcing consumer protection laws for disabled people. Another great change, thank you, President Trump. He leased out 13.1 million acres of federal land for coal production, and then offered to pay them $625 million afterward, just because. He put even more tariffs, this time on lumber, cabinets, and furniture, because the best way to decrease home prices is to make the materials more expensive to get. Announced he was going to fire any military leader he, quote, didn't like. Always the hallmark of a good president. He struck a fourth boat off of Venezuela, once again giving no evidence that it was doing anything illegal. Disbanded a DOJ task force that took on cartels. Started the process to make Harvard ineligible for federal funding. And finally unveiled a new dollar coin with his face on it. Yes, this is going to actually be minted by the U.S. Treasury.
So we don't have the results from different elections across the country tonight, but MAGA, Elon Musk, and others are already trying to claim that the elections are not fair. For example, in New York City specifically, Elon Musk said the New York City ballot form is a scam, no ID is required, other mayoral candidates appear twice, Cuomo's name is last in bottom right. And then he included the ballot for New York City, which shows that Zohran Mamdani does appear multiple times and Cuomo's name is down there. Eric Trump even tried to join in saying that games are being played across the country. But this is so dumb for a number of reasons. Number one, your ID is not required because they check the information you present at the polls to what the information is on the voter rolls. If they don't match, you don't vote. New York City has a near 0% fraud rate. And the whole candidates showing up twice thing, yeah, in New York, multiple parties can nominate the same person, so they would show up twice under two different parties. This is the ballot in New York from last year, where Donald Trump showed up twice under the Republican Party and the Conservative Party. It's so crazy that these MAGA influencers and billionaires will never just do a simple Google search to correct themselves. Instead, they believe they found a secret flaw in the system that nobody has seen before. God, they're so ridiculous.
Well, it looks like Democrats are finally fighting back. Nancy Pelosi just issued this warning to President Trump in San Francisco. While the president may enjoy absolute immunity courtesy of his rogue Supreme Court, those who operate under his orders do not. Our state and local authorities may arrest federal agents if they break California law, and if they are convicted, the president cannot pardon them.
I don't think Washington understands how ticked off we truly are. Think about the conversation that we're having right now. You brought up the single-payer system, emulating Canada. You know, we're looking at a president that just gave $20 billion to Argentina. We're listening to this kind of stuff while a young man walked up to the microphone and said that he had to leave here to go and work on DoorDash to help pay for his daughter's tuition. Meanwhile, everybody up here getting paid. This is why you have so many Americans, excuse my language, so pissed off at Washington, because somehow, some way you get to have these conversations, engage in specific elements of it to talk about what we need to do to get things better. Our debt is $37.8 trillion. Somehow, some way, the taxpayers been paying this, been throwing money, because we all look at our check, and it's been going to the government. And somehow, some way, you're supposed to be doing something constructive and productive enough to make sure that we don't have that kind of deficit. It isn't happening. A government shutdown is going on right now. A man has to work on DoorDash when he's really an air traffic controller that we applauded. And we're up here talking about how much some money is going to cost, and the only person that don't have a check coming is him.
What's your kind of biggest pet peeve today?
I'm very upset about the governmental shutdown. I just don't feel like the concern of the average person is being taken into account. One of the reasons...
Guys, the FBI just dropped the get out of jail free card, so lock in. In news that every sentient being on the planet already fully understood, there are criminals out there without government authority, pretending to be criminals with government authority, and they're dressing up as your favorite three-letter agency that deals with immigration, and they're grabbing people off the streets, they're committing assaults, robberies, sexual batteries. You know, it's actually hard to tell the difference between the two people. But what this means for you, this means that if any masked individuals or groups tell you that they need to take you away, you can use any means to defend yourself from being taken by them. And when I mean any means, I mean any means. And if they try to prosecute you for protecting yourself, guess what? The FBI is going to be the best defense witness in your case. So guys, fight back. Fight back.
Everything Trump did this week. He used the government shutdown as an excuse to fire thousands of federal workers, including 1,400 employees from the Treasury Department, 1,100 workers from HHS, almost 500 from education, 450 from housing and urban development, almost 200 from energy, and almost 200 from the Department of Homeland Security. He announced additional 100% tariffs on China, launching us into another trade war and crashing the stock market for like the 5th time. Allowed Qatar to build a military base on American soil. Remember, this is after they bribed him with a new private jet back in May. Struck a 5th Venezuelan boat, killing 4 more people, once again giving no evidence that it was carrying drugs or anything illegal. Tried to send 200 California National Guard troops to Oregon. This was to get around a judge's block on sending Oregon National Guard troops to Portland, but a judge also blocked this one too. Actually sent 500 National Guard troops to Chicago, 300 from the Texas National Guard and 200 from the Illinois National Guard. Asked social media influencers to give him the names of Antifa agents for him to go out and find, because those are obviously the most reputable sources for information. He refused to guarantee back pay for federal workers during the shutdown, called for Democratic leaders in Illinois to be jailed, suggested that NATO should kick Spain out, sorry Spain, indicted another political enemy for mortgage fraud, threatened to put sanctions on anyone who votes for a UN climate resolution, imposed 25% tariffs on large trucks, which are very important for the economy, and finally lost the Nobel Peace Prize after campaigning extremely hard for it. And of course, he just called the committee woke and liberal as a response.
I want to explain to me how you draw the line, because you say we shouldn't be concerned because this is foreign affairs and the president has inherent authority, and so delegation off the books, more or less. And if that's true, what would prohibit Congress from just abdicating all responsibility to regulate foreign commerce, for that matter, declare war, to the president?
We don't contend that he could do that. If it did,
why not?
Well, because we're dealing with a statute again that has a whole.
I'm not asking about the statute, General. I'm not asking about the statute. I'm asking for your theory of the Constitution and why the major questions in non-delegation what bite it would have in that case.
Yes, I would say by then you would move from the area where there's enormous deference to the president, actually both the political branches, where here there's inherent authority, and piled on top of that there's a broad delegation.
You're saying there's inherent authority in foreign affairs, all foreign affairs. So regulate commerce, duties, and tariffs and war. It's inherent authority all the way down, you say. Fine. Congress decides tomorrow, well, we're tired of this legislating business. We're just going to hand it all off to the president. What would stop Congress from doing that?
People could be replaced. This president in 3 years or in 7 years will have another administration. And if those new leadership, took a different view of this, there's zero impediment to this just being put right back in effect.
I think even if the court were to think that there were some possibility that, as my friend on the other side said, 3 years in the future or 7 years in the future, ATF were to reassess its views on this question, that just wouldn't present, or likely wouldn't present, the same controversy that this case presents.
How much would democratic socialist policies like free healthcare, free childcare, and free education actually cost the average American family? So the median household income is about $80,000 a year. And I wanted to see how much that family making $80,000 a year currently pays out of pocket for healthcare, childcare, and education, and how much it would cost them in new taxes to get free healthcare, free childcare, and free public education. So right now, the average family is paying about $6,000 a year out of pocket for healthcare, $1,400 a year for childcare out of pocket, and this is all families, including families with no kids, that's how that number is so low, and $1,700 a year for education. So the average family is currently paying about $9,100 a year in out-of-pocket costs for healthcare, childcare, and education. Now, how much would this family have to pay in new taxes to get free healthcare, free childcare, and free education? $2,000 for free healthcare, $0 for free childcare, and $0 for free education. Now, the reason this number is so low and these two numbers are zero is simple. It's because the most popular proposals for these three programs have the wealthy and corporations paying for the lion's share of the costs and make sure that families like this don't take on the burden. So not only would the average family save about $7,100 a year, they would also have free healthcare and free childcare and free public education.
I love words. They matter. And it's interesting that we are using the term government shutdown because our taxes right now are still being collected. The people's house is still being bulldozed. Foreign governments and countries with healthcare and free college are still getting our money. Masked thugs are still enjoying pay, and Congress members are still getting their fat paychecks, all whilst not working. What a luxury! To vacation with pay and medical benefits on the taxpayers' dime, while requiring others with less than them to report to work without pay. What an outlandish and grotesque state of affairs. Let
me be clear. The president has both the funding and the authority to fund SNAP during a shutdown. In fact, every other president in every other shutdown has done so.
Here is a flight cancellation update. We finally have the full official list straight from the FAA of the airports that will be affected by the flight reductions starting tomorrow morning. It is Thursday night, November 6th. Here we go. Anchorage, Atlanta, Boston, Baltimore, Washington, Charlotte, Cincinnati, Dallas Love Field, Reagan National, Denver, Dallas Fort Worth.
If a goddamn immigrant can drag their ass across the border having little to no grasp on the English language, almost zero societal ties to wherever they land, and still somehow have more going on than whatever it is you got, that is a fucking you problem, and you need to figure that out for yourself. Seriously, folks, for fuck's sake, do you not understand the leap in logic it takes to blame somebody else's immigration status on your lack of success? And not the billionaires who spend more than your life savings daily on lobbying for legislation in which literally only they will benefit? It's like y'all live to be walking, talking examples of what weaponized stupid looks like.
I am part of the American people,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I believe
and you should
that
respect free speech.
And
What's the question?
you
What's the
should
question?
respect free speech.
What's the question?
I'm asking you a question if you're ready to have a conversation with the other side.
Democratic Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan confronted House Speaker Mike Johnson at his press conference on Wednesday because she wanted to know why the House has been out of session for 7 weeks during what has become the longest government shutdown in history.
I think Trump did this week. He stationed our biggest aircraft carrier off the coast of Venezuela, saying they won't stop until they have Maduro's corpse in U.S. custody. He started flying B-1 bombers around the airspace in Venezuela and then denied that it ever happened. Cut all aid to Colombia that was used to stop drug smuggling, which seems counterintuitive if you want to stop drug smuggling. Tried to get Zelensky to give up a large portion of Ukraine to Russia right after Putin told him to. Refused to meet with Democrats to stop the government shutdown. Republicans have also shut down the House for over a month, stopping any negotiations. Nominated someone for his administration who had described himself as a Nazi. That's concerning. Quadrupled beef imports from Argentina right after destroying our farming industry with tariffs. Got the University of Virginia to agree to roll back diversity initiatives, using their federal funding as a bargaining chip. Blew up 3 more boats in the Caribbean without giving any evidence of wrongdoing. The total death count is now 43. He deleted a website used to report U.S. armed human rights abuses. Terminated all trade talks with Canada over an ad campaign he didn't like. Pardoned a crypto billionaire who was found guilty of a felony last year. Opened a huge Alaskan wildlife refuge up for oil drilling. And finally demolished the entire east wing of the White House to make room for his new ballroom. Here's everything Trump did this week. He said he would love to run for a 3rd term as president, then immediately backtracked the next day and said he couldn't. He stopped giving food stamps to 42 million people and denied 2 court orders telling him that he had to. Blew up 5 more boats in the Pacific Ocean, bringing the total death count up to 61 people. Deported a British journalist for having pro-Palestinian views, revoking his visa and kicking him out of the country. He ordered the Pentagon to resume testing nuclear weapons, which is now prompting Russia to do the same. Signed a trade deal with China that really didn't change anything from where we were at the beginning of the trade war. Ordered the National Guard to establish dedicated forces in every state. They're gonna send up to 500 soldiers to every state, training them in holding detainees and breaking up protests. Tried to nominate someone with ties to Russian oligarchs to a commerce position in the US government. He was a senior executive at a company owned by one of the richest Russian oligarchs in existence. Gave $100 million to coal companies so that they could upgrade their power plants. This is after he gave them $625 million last month. Banned journalists from accessing the press secretary's office, meaning they can now pick and choose which news outlets they want to give information to. Lied about making a $10 billion deal with Toyota, with a senior executive coming out and saying no deal like that happened. He walked back his claim that Tylenol causes autism after finding out there really wasn't any evidence of that. He suspended 2 prosecutors for calling January 6th a riot, set the refugee cap to 7,500 people, the lowest in history, and finally renovated his presidential bathroom. Glad to see his focus is on the things that truly matter in this country.
We do have to just step back and acknowledge that the depth of corruption and self-dealing and self-enrichment by the Trump family during this term is something that we have never, ever seen in the United States. At no point in our republic have we seen anything like this. I mean, you had Jared Kushner took billions of dollars from the Saudis. You've got the president's family going out ahead of his official visits doing business across the region. You've got the meme coin, where foreigners are directly enriching the president and his family and his businesses. And some of them are being quite open. Some of the folks buying this coin are being quite open that they're doing it in order to curry favor or to gain influence. And the president is selling private dinners and White House tours to people who invest in his family businesses, not to mention the airplane, which is maybe the most extraordinary single obvious constitutional violation in presidential history. It is really mind-blowing. And for the speaker to say that, when it is the explicit role of the United States Congress to investigate and oversee misconduct by the executive branch, when we have all sworn an oath to that Constitution, which defines that separation of powers and that role for the United States Congress, demonstrates that there is no red line, there is no new depth that this administration can plumb that will get these folks to give a damn. They're absolutely...
You might remember he was inaugurated in the first term, and then the day after was the Women's March.
Yeah.
Right at inauguration was the Women's March. Women's March, one of the hugest peaceful civil disobedience demonstrations all over the world there's ever been. This time is different. There wasn't one huge protest. But in Trump's first 100 days this term, people protest in, I swear, like all 50 states every day. And it never stops. And
I think people show their ignorance when they say they want politicians to be honest. What are these people talking about? If honesty were suddenly introduced into politics, it would throw everything off. The whole system would collapse. And I think deep down the American people know that. The American people like their bullshit out front, where they can get a good, strong whiff of it. That's why they re-elected Clinton. Listen, Clinton might be full of shit, but he lets you know it. Dole tried to hide it. I'm an honest man. Bullshit. Bullshit. People don't believe that shit. Clinton said, hi, I'm full of shit, and how do you like that? And
all we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID.
What? When was the last time you had to give your ID when you bought a loaf of bread or filled up your tank with gas?
All I can think about is how funny this is going to be when it's laid out in a history book for our kids to read. How they're going to be like, how did people actually think that the left was evil and that the right was good when the right was refusing to feed Americans and our president was literally taking to social media, refusing the judicial branch after being told he had to feed Americans and saying he's not going to feed Americans until he gets his way. And by the way, getting his way is raising our health insurance by 200%. I can't wait until this is all factually laid out in a history book. And I won't forget which one of you guys were making this difficult for all of us.
Just a year ago, I remember talking to folks who would tell me, this election doesn't matter. These are some well-educated, bright, people. They say, whoever the next president ends up being, it's not going to affect me. That's what they would say. If nothing else, the last 9 months should have cured us of that idea.
A lot of people online talking about this immigrant issue, and they either don't have kids or they don't think it could happen to their kids. Their idea is, hey, shouldn't have fucking come over here. You get those kind of people. Broke the law. Shouldn't have fucking come over here if your kid, you didn't want to get your kid separated. If you were in the presence of a woman who came over here from Guatemala and she's poor and she's starving and they're taking her baby away and she's wailing and screaming from a primal place in her DNA that the one thing she loves more than anything is being taken away. A baby. Yeah. If that doesn't freak you the fuck out, you're not a part of the team, man.
Go ahead and march. Oh, darling, we did. And you don't care? Oh, darling, I think you do. And you say, what a waste of breath. Well, now, my friends have something to say about that.
Why don't you try telling that to Dr. King?
Tell that to the suffragists, the marchers at Selma, the Stonewall rioters, to every person who stood up when they were told to sit down instead. Protest is change.
Tell it to an independent India. Tell it to the safety of your workplace, the 40-hour work week, the weekend. Tell it to your weekend.
Actually, evidence shows that peaceful protest is strategically superior to any other approach for overthrowing authoritarian governments or achieving lasting social change.
If it wasn't working, they wouldn't be spending so much time on it.
You're so right, Sarah. Y'all, I know this fight is a long one, and activism moves very slowly. Don't let anybody disenfranchise you from your voice. The marches matter. Take care, y'all. Thanks for sharing.
Oh my God, so Donald Trump just admitted that this $40 billion Argentina bailout will not benefit the United States at all. Listen.
Argentina, what's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
Just helping a great philosophy take over a great country. Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever seen. And we want to see it succeed. Very simple. I mean, we don't have to do it. It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but it will in terms of South America.
It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but guess
why is the government still shut down? And why did 42 million low-income Americans, including 16 million children, not get their food assistance over the weekend? Well, back in July, Republicans passed the Big Beautiful Bill, which cut Medicaid by nearly $1 trillion, reduced nutrition assistance by just shy of $200 billion, and allowed expanded Affordable Care Act subsidies to expire. They did that through a process called budget reconciliation, which let them pass it with a simple majority. Not a single Democrat voted for it. Now, independent from that, each year, Congress must pass 12 appropriations bills to fund the government for the next year, or a short-term continuing resolution to keep it running while they negotiate. This year, they did neither, so the government shut down. Why? Republicans are saying that they just want to pass a clean CR, which would temporarily extend current funding levels. But what they leave out is that this would be under the baseline created by the Big Beautiful Bill, which allowed expanded I.C.E. subsidies to expire. So Democrats are saying that's actually not clean at all. Democrats are holding out right now to restore the I.C.E. subsidies, which keep healthcare premiums lower for millions of Americans. If those subsidies expire, premiums are projected to more than double next year, and that would push millions of people to drop healthcare coverage. Democrats see this as their last chance to protect these I.C.E. subsidies, and their position is incredibly popular. The majority of Americans, including most Republicans and even most people who identify as MAGA, support extending these subsidies.
We have some pretty major news right now. The Trump administration, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance just launched a full-throttled attack on SNAP benefits as a whole after today's judge's ruling, which ordered them to pay out full SNAP benefits by tomorrow. Now, they're appealing this. The Justice Department is appealing the decision. But tonight they were asked about it, and J.D. Vance said it's an absurd ruling. Donald Trump then went on a tirade talking about how SNAP benefits weren't meant for everyone and how too many people have SNAP benefits. What it really...
I'm a very strong person for free speech. At the same time, 97 and 94%, 97, 94, 95, 96% of the people are against me in the sense of the newscasts are against me. The stories are 97% bad. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally. I think that reporting has to be at least accurate to an extent. Whether it's 89, doesn't matter. It's a tremendous number.
This is absolutely incredible. A blue wave swept across America on Tuesday night with Democrats winning everything. And New York's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, had this to say.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
And he was listening.
And, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make.
Yeah, if you're old, loud music can hurt. And I think all this winning is making Dumpy a little nervous. Aww.
They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. Now, if we do what I'm saying, they'll most likely never attain power, because we will have passed every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and all good for the country.
Sorry. Like bankrupting your people with tariffs, withholding food stamps from hungry women and children, snatching people off the streets and kidnapping them and sending them to concentration camps, or bankrupting all your farmers so you can buy up the land for cheap and control the food supply. That kind of good for the country?
After last night's results, the decision facing all Americans could not be more clear. We have a choice between communism and common sense.
Socialism. Next question.
They will try to end the Trump administration. He won't have 4 years, he'll have only 2, because they will move to impeach him.
Fuck yeah, champagne's already chilling. Thoughts?
It's happening.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
There's new reporting on the Epstein files.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Several House Republicans have reportedly heard from the Department of Justice that the unreleased Jeffrey Epstein documents, not good for Trump.
I rise today to demand that Donald Trump and our Attorney General come clean to the American people.
Trump is a sexual predator. That's according to reporting from an MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News reporter who's saying there's speculation sweeping through the GOP caucus about these details. This is Michael Wolff, an award-winning journalist whom Epstein showed compromising pictures of Trump and underage girls. The report says GOP House members heard from FBI and DOJ contacts that the Epstein files, they're even worse than Michael Wolff's description of the Epstein photos showing Trump with half-naked teenage girls. Listen to this.
I know that these pictures exist. 2 of them with topless girls of an uncertain age sitting on Trump's lap. I remember Steve Bannon said to me, if there were ever photographs, Trump would merely say, that's not me.
Wolf said Epstein pulled the photos out of a safe and spread them out like a deck of cards on his dining room table. Wolf saw these photos while visiting Epstein's home, as Epstein wanted Wolf to write a book about him. And Pam Bondi's testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee has Republicans freaking out.
Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander.
It's happening.
Okay, so wild idea. 2 presidents, 2 systems. You vote red, you get a red card. You vote blue, you get a blue card. But for the next 4 years, that card is your life. You need health care? Present your card. Public transportation? Card. You go to a restaurant? Show the card. You're trying to file taxes or get disaster relief or apply for a job, even to get utilities. Yeah, you're going to need that card. Red card holders get the policies they voted for. No Medicaid expansion, no union protections, no student loan relief, no restaurants with immigrant employees or even food picked by immigrant hands, no federal disaster aid, unless of course the hurricane was Jesus approved, and absolutely no abortion access, even if your mistress needs one. And since we're talking about accountability, red card holders only get the benefits their states actually pay for. So no more blue state bailouts, no more taking in more federal money than you contribute. So if you're living off that $1,100 a month in blue benefits now, you better learn how to make that red $300 stretch. Roads? Your problem. Bridges? Good luck. Those inspections don't pay for themselves. Hospitals? Shuttered. But hey, until the Wi-Fi gets cut off, you can still yell about socialism on Facebook. But blue card holders, you're going to get infrastructure, you're going to get safety nets, you're going to get the public schools that actually teach history. Red card holders can still ignore science, but blue card holders are going to get the freedom to follow it. And I promise you this, after 1 term, just 1, you're going to see a flood of red cards turning blue. Because nothing exposes bad political ideology like being forced to live under it. No scam.
I spoke to the police chief of Portland last week. He said that the president's claims just don't match up with what's happening on the ground.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at it for yourself, because there's been many members of the press, not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity in prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials who are opposed to everything this president does.
Now, coming out of this, here's what I just saw. You present her with a verifiable fact. She then dismisses it. She then asserts something false and then implies you're a partisan hack. I see the content play there. What's the journalism value play there? But more importantly, what's the value for the American public? How should the American public take this and consume this and then make decisions in their life?
That's a good question. And I think that anyone watching that exchange, whether you are someone who believes the National Guard should be sent into every Democratic city, or you're someone who thinks this is a huge overreach of power and is worried about putting our military members on the streets of American cities to do things that they're not trained to do. And so, which was part of what happened in Portland. They sent the National Guard, or they tried to, but they weren't even actually deployed. And so I think the value of that is whoever you are in that moment, watching that exchange, I think it's an unimpeachable question. Who told you that that's needed there? Justify your reasoning for wanting to send in the National Guard as an administration. And I think when they can't, and they can't point to anyone who has said, we need the National Guard to come in, I think that's really telling. And I think that's an important moment, because I think regardless of where you fall on that, it says a lot.
Well, a very strange thing happened on November 4th in Kentucky. Kentucky voters were very mad that polling places were closed that day. You may ask yourself, what was going on? Why couldn't Kentucky voters get to the polls? Because Kentucky didn't have any elections going on. But people were still showing up to vote. Michael Adams, the Kentucky Secretary of State, said, "We're getting calls about polls being closed. They are closed because we do not have elections today. Kentucky votes next year. You cannot vote today in Kentucky for the mayor of New York City or the governor of Virginia. Sorry."
Bad news, guys. Donald Trump nor any of his officials will be attending the United Nations Climate Conference this year. But instead, the de facto president, Gavin Newsom, will be headed there along with a large delegation from California.
Who's getting fired? Who's going to bear the brunt of the responsibility if indeed there is a shutdown of our government?
Well, if you say who gets fired, it always has to be the top. I mean, problems start from the top, and they have to get solved from the top, and the president's the leader. And he's got to get everybody in a room, and he's got to lead. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't like doing that. That's not his strength.
In my opinion, I hear the Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. If there's a shutdown, it's only because of the Democrats.
We have some big news right now. We're outside of Speaker Mike Johnson's office. I'm here with Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, who is actually holding out a sign. And I want to show you guys. I'm going to flip the camera. It says, "Mike Johnson is starving families and gutting health care to cover up the Epstein files. Change my mind." Now,
what do you notice about the way Donald Trump handled this medical emergency in the Oval Office? Gordon, you okay?
Press, we're going. Thank you, press. Press, right guys. Cameras, we're done rolling. Cameras.
We have almost no inflation. We're down now to 2%.
Inflation's a problem, and they keep talking about 2, but it's stuck at 3. Big difference.
Even Fox Business.
Thank you very much. Wow. Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement.
So because of the government shutdown, the U.S. Army has told its soldiers and military personnel stationed in Germany that if they don't receive their paychecks soon, to use German food banks.
Hey, I don't want to get political, but I am. And this one is not political. It's the SNAP programs around the country, and especially in Wisconsin, because that's where I'm at right now, are going to get delayed. And this is for Republicans and Democrats. We're talking about kids not getting food, and that should never happen. I don't want to hear about people who are cheating the program and all that crap. A 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid is cheating nothing, and we are going to cheat the kids if we don't take care of this. And our Republicans and Democratic senators and in the government have not done their jobs. And so the problem is the kids have to pay, and that's ridiculous, right?
Did they have the highest inflation in 48 years? Did they? Just answer me the question. You know the answer. The answer is yes. They had the worst inflation in 48 years. We have almost no inflation. We're down now to 2%, and we'll be at maybe 1%. You want to always stay above 1%, actually. You want a little tiny bit of inflation.
Prices are up in the United States for coffee. It's up almost 20%. Utility up 11.7%. And then electricity is up 5.1%, and vehicle repair, if you need your car fixed, it's up 11.5%.
Truth is, these guys don't give a shit about everyday people. They've never gone hungry. They don't even buy their own groceries, and they'll never have to choose between putting food on the table or paying for health care. They have private cooks and concierge doctors. This is all a game to them. And by the way, we still don't even know what the hell this administration is doing with benefits. I mean, this morning, as my colleague just stated, Trump posted on Truth Social that he would illegally withhold benefits. Now they're saying they won't. What I do know is that it's not that complicated. Now his press secretary is trying to walk it back.
Moments ago, a federal appeals court denied Trump's request to halt the order forcing him to issue SNAP benefits for the month of November. Do you
Aiming above the waist is within policy?
It can be. If someone strays into a pepper ball, then that's on them. Don't protest and don't trespass.
There are many that have capitulated since day one who are bending the knee at the foot of a tyrant.
In the campaign, you said Donald Trump was a fascist. Do you think he's running a fascist authoritarian government?
I was asked if he was a fascist, and I said yes. And the reason is that I look at what is happening right now. And again, it is what I predicted. He said he would weaponize the Department of Justice. He has done exactly that. He has used the United States Department of Justice, which should be an independent agency that makes decisions based on fact and law and not personal vengeance of the President of the United States. You look at what has happened in terms of how he has weaponized, for example, the federal agencies around going after political satirists who his skin is so thin, he couldn't endure criticism from a joke and attempted to shut down an entire media organization in the process.
And you are critical of billionaires and other institutions bowing down, capitulation.
There are not all, but there are many that have capitulated since day one who are bending the knee at the foot of a tyrant, I believe for many reasons, including they want to be next to power because they want to perhaps have a merger approved or avoid an investigation. And it is a crying shame.
Stay in your cars! Tell everyone to stay in your houses! Don't open your doors if you're not alive! This is my city, that's right! Take off your mask! Take off your mask! What?
I'm not the only one. 20 years in the Navy. I never passed CC today. I fought for freedom. For somebody like Trump to come and take it away. I'm not a good speaker. I fought for freedom. You see it taken away like this. Hopefully it won't be, but there's a chance. I just can't get over it. I'm not the only one who spent days, months, minutes fighting for what we believe in, to keep this country free and clear. To have somebody like Trump to come in and do what he's doing, and the support he's getting, I just can't get over it.
ICE has been handcuffed. Judge Ellis just granted the preliminary injunction prohibiting ICE from the tactics and weapons that have terrorized and traumatized Chicago. She called Gregory Bovino a liar. The injunction is in place and ICE must abide. Government lawyers are almost certainly working on the appeal right now. Details to follow later.
You guys going to court?
Well, let me answer both the J.D. Vance piece and the other piece. This is as a result of us continuing to push legally with the judge and the judge ruling that no longer would there be a partial payment, but the full payment. And the moment we got that ruling, Secretary Arkush went into action, pushed that button, and got the dollars flowing again, the federal dollars. And look, as for J.D. Vance, I mean, I got to say, look, I think America has a president, a vice president that don't give a damn about all Americans. They have made that crystal clear. And I mean, at least with Donald Trump, he's transparent about that. J.D. Vance is a total phony. And let me explain why. J.D. Vance rose to some prominence by writing a book about growing up in Appalachia, where there's a whole lot of people who get SNAP.
He made millions of dollars on the backs of telling their stories, and then he turned his damn back on those very people who he likes to write about and claim as his own. Here's another thing J.D. Vance claims. He claims to be a person of faith. I know my Bible. And my Bible teaches us that we are to love thy neighbor. And we are to feed the hungry. Deuteronomy says if you see a person who is in need, you don't give them a clenched fist, you open up your hand. So for J.D. Vance now to turn around after claiming all these things his whole life and literally go to court to stop hungry people from eating, that is not only phony, it is shameful. And this is who is leading America today.
Hello, my dear friends. I have to admit I'm a little bit nervous to film and post this reel, but here we go. I'm going to tell you about a man you didn't elect. His name is Peter Thiel. He co-founded PayPal. He co-founded Palantir, which is a surveillance and AI company now embedded inside of I.C.E. and the Israeli military, helping generate targeting lists across the U.S. and in Gaza. He was an early investor in Facebook. He's now worth about $8 billion, and he spent a significant portion of that fortune building one thing, J.D. Vance. They met in 2011 at Yale Law School, where Thiel was giving a talk. Vance approached him afterwards. Thiel became his mentor, his employer, his financier, his political kingmaker. He hired Vance at his venture capital firm. He funded Vance's own firm. He wrote the blurb on Vance's book, and then in 2022, he donated $15 million to Vance's Senate run, the largest individual donation to a single Senate race in American history. Then he walked Vance into Mar-a-Lago literally and personally introduced him to Donald Trump, even though Vance had called Donald Trump Hitler in public. The man one heartbeat from the presidency was, quite literally, assembled by a billionaire who has publicly stated, and right now get out your pen, write notes, Thiel said, I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. End quote, and it's not a misquote. Search it. Now, about those Epstein files. Thiel's name appears over 2,200 times across Epstein's email schedules and documents. The two had lunch in November 2017, 9 years after Epstein's conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Epstein invested $40 million into funds co-managed by Thiel, and Epstein was actively brokering introductions between Thiel and the Israeli officials, including a dinner in 2014 arranged by Epstein himself. Thiel denies wrongdoing. The calendar entries don't have opinions. Meanwhile, Palantir, Thiel's company, signed a strategic partnership with Israel's Ministry of Defense in 2024. Their CEO at Palantir said publicly, I'm proud that we are supporting Israel in every way we can. Palantir's own CEO has also acknowledged, in his words, that their product is used on occasion to kill people. This is the man who built your vice president. This is the company in the bloodstream of your government. You didn't vote for Peter Thiel, but Peter Thiel is governing you anyway. That's not democracy. That's a purchase. I will be back.
The one that specifically I'm thinking about is the one that he himself, the governor of California, was sitting watching this broadcast yesterday and sent a text to my cell phone with a video of a raid from Los Angeles, which I think we have, at Cypress Park Home Depot. I've talked to you from that very Home Depot before. It's around the corner from my house. Look at inside this car. They took a U.S. citizen father out and left a toddler in the back seat. Two heavily armed Border Patrol agents got in that car and drove the child and the vehicle away. Homeland Security says that that father had a pistol in the car, threw rocks at law enforcement, yet he was later released, and the child was returned to the family. Lawyers are saying if there was anything to that story, why didn't they take the kid and lock the father up? And Gavin Newsom wrote to me, I am shaking. He's sick. I'm sick.
I went to America this week. I know, but it was for work. But here's the thing. I've never been apologized to by so many Americans. Pretty much every American I spoke with, once they found out I was Canadian, said sorry. Well, actually, they said sorry. They'd also do this thing where they do the room sweep, you know? Then they'd lean in and say, things aren't great here. Yeah, no guff, eh? But it got me thinking that they were saying it in an envious way. They were envious of Canada. And I thought, yeah, goddamn right they are. Canada isn't perfect, but it is, and I'll say this in French, pretty fucking great. When I arrived back in Canada, I felt even prouder to be Canadian, surrounded by Canadians of all kinds and all colors, all coming home and glad of it. Then, when I approached the Canada Border Services agents with my little clearance slip of paper, I handed it over and she reviewed it, looked me in the eye and said, "Welcome home." I almost wept. My mouth said thanks. My brain and my maple heart said, fuck yeah. Canada is special, and it's worth protecting. Let's not forget that. Things are pretty good here.